This is not Kakariko Village. Well, it is Kakariko Village, but it's not the original Kakariko Village. It's actually a replant. It's a new Kakariko Village. In this video, I'm going to show you where the original Kakariko Village is in Breath of the Wild. Kakariko Village, it's been a beloved and recurring location in the Zelda series since Ocarina of Time. But this is not Kakariko Village, and in this video I'm going to take you to the real Kakariko Village here in Breath of the Wild. First, let me explain. Kakariko Village first appeared in Link to the Past. It's a quaint little medieval style village with regular Hylians living there. There are several merchants here and villagers with vital information. They'll turn you in to the authorities early in the game as well. Here, Link gets the flute and awakens the bird here in the center that serves as the teleport feature of the game. And just outside this village, Kakariko Village, you will find the smiths that upgrade your sword. Kakariko Village gets its 3D upgrade in Ocarina of Time next. It's here that Kakariko actually exists for the first time in the Zelda timeline. Again, a quaint medieval style village with regular Hylians that live here. There are shops, a graveyard, and a large construction project going on in the center of the village. One of the most infamous features of Kakariko Village here is the windmill, and it's here that Link learns the Song of Storms. Once we get to Kakariko Village in Twilight Princess, it's obviously run down. Regular Hylians still live here, but it's no longer a thriving village. People have moved away and Kakariko is on its way to being abandoned. It's here that Link finally tracks down the missing kids from Ordon Village. There's a bomb shop here, and little Mako opens up a general store. All of these things are important. The little details about Kakariko all matter because Kakariko in Breath of the Wild doesn't fit any of the description. Sure, it's called Kakariko, but it's not the original Kakariko. Let's dig into that a little bit more, looking at the characteristics and landmarks pointing to its location. This time, we'll go in timeline order. If we're going to find Kakariko Village in Ocarina of Time, we have to go right of the castle and cross a bridge and follow the river. If we pass the road to Kakariko and continue following the river, we will eventually come to be able to climb the river and go to Zora's Domain. So if we continue down this path and go this direction following the river, we get to Zora's Domain. That's important, so bookmark that. In Kakariko, we find that it sits in a walled valley of sorts. Granted, this is a feature of the limitations of the Nintendo 64 at the time, and they needed to create boundaries for the game world, but they're there nonetheless. We pass through Kakariko, we're going to come to the path, the long path up the mountain that will lead us to Goron City and to Death Mountain. That's important too, so bookmark that. We're going to continue in the child timeline where we find the next significant version of Kakariko. In the child timeline, Link travels back to live out his childhood at the end of Ocarina of Time. What does he do? He immediately goes to Zelda and warns him about Ganondorf's plans, thus splitting the timeline. Ganondorf is banished to the Twilight Realm by the original sages as seen in a cutscene in Twilight Princess. Kakariko Village is walled in again, just like we've seen previously. This time with the game sense in mind, it belongs in a walled in canyon, so it's walled in for a purpose. It looks very run down, and if we continue past Kakariko, so Kakariko's over here, if we continue past and we continue down the road, even though you can't get there directly in this game, on the map, you can see that this is where Zora's Domain is. It is directly linked. You continue past Kakariko, you will get to Zora's Domain, just like in Ocarina of Time. It's also through Kakariko Village that we find the road to the Goron City and up to Death Mountain, also just like Ocarina, so bookmark that as well. Further in the child timeline, we also have Four Swords Adventures. I don't have that game, but I do know that Kakariko is shrouded in the darkness and that it's overrun by thieves. the decline of Kakariko has continued, which brings us now to the downfall timeline where the hero was defeated. In this timeline, the newly awakened sages must work together to banish the monster Ganon, and they send him to the sacred realm. Which brings us back to Link to the Past. This is a normal little village, but because of the scale of the game, it doesn't quite fit in the map the same way the 3D versions do. But it's near the foot of Death Mountain, which is straight into the top of the screen. It's near the foot of Death Mountain and creates a triangle with the Lost Woods, which is all the way to the top left of the screen. And that triangle is important, so let's bookmark that. Link between Worlds actually uses the same map as Link to the Past, and so the same thing applies to the Kakariko Village of that game. In this particular timeline, by the time we get to the next game, the original 1986 Legend of Zelda, Ganon has wreaked havoc on the land, and there is no real village left present. The Hylians leave and rebuild in another land by the next game. Likewise, in the adult timeline, the world is flooded. Kakariko is abandoned, and its residents establish Windfall Island. So where is Kakariko? 1. Right of the castle and over the river. 2. Off the road that will eventually take you to Zora's Domain. 3. A stop at the bottom of Death Mountain on the way to Goron City. And 4. In Link to the Past, it triangulates with Death Mountain and the Lost Woods. So this is not Kakariko Village. Before we find the original Kakariko, let's address this village. This is a Sheikah settlement. In Ocarina, Kakarina was the birthplace of Impa, home to an old forgotten order of Sheikah. So when the Sheikah began to grow and reestablish their culture, what else would they name their village? Kakariko, the original Kakariko, was gone. It was declined. It fell into ruin, fell into the hands of thieves, and became just a ghost town. And in their nostalgia, in the Sheikah's nostalgia, longing for their birthplace and a place to call their own, they named this new village, this new settlement, after their original ancient home. This is New Kakariko, but it is not Old Kakariko. So where is Old Kakariko? Let's find out. Let's follow the clues. First, we go right from the castle, we cross the river, and we find the road that will eventually lead us to Zora's Domain. That's the road I'm currently on. If I were to travel this road right here, I will eventually come to Zora's Domain. It must also triangulate with the Lost Woods. We have Death Mountain, we have Lost Woods, and so we would expect it to be at the foot of Death Mountain, triangulating with the Lost Woods on the road to Zora's Domain. And that puts it somewhere in here. Let's go see what we find there. You may notice if you play Breath of the Wild is that there is a fork in the road right here. This is the official road that's on the map, but there is an unofficial road going this direction that is not on the map. Let's follow that road. This road brings us to a small canyon-like area. It's walled in on either side. And what do we have nestled between the canyon walls? We have village ruins. These ruins are not marked on the map. They're not named, they're not labeled, they're not anything. But this set of ruins sits between two canyon walls. This set of ruins triangulates with the Lost Woods and Death Mountain. This set of ruins is directly to the right of the castle, across the river, and off the path that will eventually lead you to Zora's Domain. This is the ruins of the original Kakariko Village. Here are some things that we can notice. Some features. Before we come into this area, as we're approaching, there is a lake area up here at the front. Small lake area. could correspond to the spirit spring in Twilight Princess. If we continue through the village, we know that if we continue on this path, we're going to eventually get to Zora's domain. But we should expect a path up the mountain leading to Goron City. Near the back side, as we are beginning to exit, we have what could be an old pathway that seems to have fallen to ruin. The rocks are slightly different than everything else around it, and our horse can run up it. It leads us into the Death Mountain area, and we could eventually scale the mountain. So here we are from these original ruins, working our way up Death Mountain. So this is the ruins of Old Kakariko Village, unmarked on the map. New Kakariko Village is a refounding of Kakariko by the Shika tribe settlement some years after this original Kakariko was lost. There are still other locations I'd like to show you, including the Snow Peak ruins and the original Temple of Time location, and maybe even the sealed grounds and the original location of the Great Deku Tree. Leave a comment below which one you'd like to see next. Thanks for watching. Please follow on Twitch, subscribe on YouTube, and I'd love for you to join the Discord. All links down below. Thanks and have a great night.